Thank you, Mary. Yeah, it's pretty awesome to have that connection with you, Mary. And I love joining and talking to all you guys. I think some of you, if you've been in your librarian positions for many years, you might have remembered. I actually gave a presentation a few years ago. I think we met in Oakley, so you might have seen me then. So my name is Jacque Beckman. I am the Youth Services and Training Specialist for Next Tech. I've actually been working for Next Tech now for just over 30 years. So I've been doing this a long time. I've been in various capacities from administrative, human resources, training and development, and I still do youth services. That's my favorite area, my niche. I have a background in English. I had planned on being an English teacher, but instead I started working for Rural Telephone and Next Tech just a week after I graduated from Fort Hays State University. So long time, but I love what I do. My goal today is to talk to you guys about digital citizenship and security. When I was talking with George, I know you guys all, probably need a refresher yourselves once in a while. What's out there that's attacking us from a computer networking standpoint, but also just getting the tools, maybe a frame of mind that when we're talking to our clientele or patrons, that when they're coming in and they're having questions, we can steer them in the right direction. That doesn't mean that we all have to be experts. And I don't want you to think that I'm an expert in any way. I can talk about this, but what's beautiful about, I guess, in my opinion, Next Tech is that we have a whole team of support people. They all have their expertise. And so they're there to find the solutions that are going to help. So after the call, if you have specific questions that really come up and you'd like to highlight and get a SME, a subject matter expert involved, just reach out to me. You can reach out through Mary if you'd like, or you can reach out to me directly, and we will get you answers to your questions. So with that, I'll talk to you about digital citizenship and security. And I'm going to take you through basically, when I give this presentation, I do the same presentation for adult groups as I do for the students. And so I really want to take you through, thinking about, we all leave behind a digital footprint wherever we go on the web. When we're using our phones and our apps, you can guarantee that someone is going to know something about us. So leaving behind, for example, where you are. So whether we're on Facebook or any social media site, whether we're out just searching something on the World Wide Web, someone's keeping track of that. And it's used for marketing. So a business wants to know kind of where you are. So they may use some social engineering for, I'm going to say, good purposes, to be able to then contact you and get to know you a little bit more. But always on the flip side of all of this, and as we're thinking through this here over the next hour or so, there's also those that unfortunately are using this information for bad purposes. But think about a digital footprint. So everywhere we are, they know where we are, they know where we were. So even yesterday, if I've searched on something, probably today, if I go out there and search again, I'm going to get some of the most commonly searched items that I've searched on before. They're going to pop up kind of first. I might even get some pop-ups in my searches that say, hey, you might like. So example, if I'm on Amazon, there's always things that that you like that pop up or that have been commonly searched on before. One of the examples I like to use in the schools for students is, let's say that you're a hunter. So right now, big hunting season, if I'm out there searching for camo gear or something orange so that if I'm hunting pheasants, I'm covered properly, what do you think is going to pop up next? of course, those same types of things that I have been searching on. So they know where we are, they know where we were, they know what we like, which is good for marketing. You know, if I'm a business and I want to market to you, I'm going to want to know what your likes and dislikes are. I'm going to cater to the likes and find out where maybe your strengths are as a business. On the flip side, if I'm a bad guy, then I might use that information, like if I were talking to a student or an older adult. I'm going to use my mother-in-law as in a few examples today. She, like so many of our family members out there in the communities, are still in a very trusting generation. And I grew up with, you know, with that understanding as well. But today we have to be really cautious because, you know, she likes to give regularly. If a piece of mail comes in and it's from a nonprofit organization, and I'm going to say presumably, she's not afraid to write a check. And so the same thing online can happen. They know what we like, they know where we like to spend our money, right? And so they keep track of that. And I'll come back and talk more to that point in a little bit. Which leads us to the next point, which is they know what we buy. Okay, I talked about Amazon. I don't know if you guys ever, you know, order books or anything like that, but they're always going to give you kind of what else you might like in the same genre of books. And of course, I didn't even think about using books as an example, but naturally, you all would be thinking that way. So, but if I'm ordering, definitely, whatever it is, they're going to keep track of that. They know what we like to buy, and they know what we like to play. And that can be movies, music, other forms of entertainment. For the big gamers out there, which I know some of them come into your libraries and they probably sit and, you know, they love to get on systems. That's a huge one because there are a whole gamut of people out there who are just hammering, and they can really attack those who are on game systems. I warn the kids who are on those, you know, especially the ones that are live with a mic, how dangerous it is for them to give out, you know, accidentally personal information. But all those, the bad guys really like these sites. Okay, it doesn't matter where you leave a digital footprint, there's a digital footprint behind you. And oftentimes it's, you know, every device we have has a specified identification number. And so they're capturing that. Sometimes you'll say, hey, this site collects cookies. So that's specific information. And most of the time they want you to click OK, which may be okay if you're familiar with the site, but it may not be otherwise. So whether you've accepted it or not, they're probably collecting data about you. And that's the important thing about a digital footprint to keep in mind. So we have to consider the risks and consequences. And so one of the things to just tell people, number one, especially with apps like Snapchat, Instagram, but really any blog posting or any other, even Facebook especially, if you wouldn't say it in person, don't post it. And you have to be careful about what all you say. So the bad guys are looking for information kind of between the lines. And that may be information about where you're going on vacation, how long you're going to be gone. It can be just how you say things. So if you're a teenage girl and you're involved in a lot of drama and your postings are all over that and people can pick up on that, the bad guys that are actually looking for somebody to exploit, sex trafficking, all those kind of things are a real concern. You have to be careful about how you're saying, not just what you're saying. So if you're being inappropriate, then the bad guys are going to pick up on that, and you may be their next target because of that. I always say, if you don't know them, don't talk to them. Especially the younger generation, because the whole trust thing that I was talking about is a different type of level. So they've never been without connectivity to the internet. And so they don't know the world that most of us grew up in, where you could discern face to face versus on the screen. And so for them, it's not uncommon for them to just have followers. So anybody on their Snapchat or Instagram feeds or whatever, now they're watching video, TikTok, they're uploading stuff. It's like a free for all, and they don't realize that, just because it says that Johnny might know this person or is friends with them, doesn't mean Johnny knows them. Because Johnny might have just clicked and befriended them, or, has them as a follower. And it's amazing when I go around to the schools and talk to them about this, the kids are like shaking their heads. And then there's like these, sometimes the light bulbs going off, aha moments. It's like, oh, wait, I get what you're saying. And, they don't realize. And a lot of times they're a celebrity. It's like a celebrity hoax is what it is. But they think they're befriending celebrities, or they're becoming part of that friend group. And those may not even be real. So trying to, help them discern what is reality versus what's not is really, really important. If you don't know them, don't talk to them. Huge. And this is a big one for all age groups, but if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. I'll share a story again about something that happened to my mother-in-law here in a little bit. But if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So whether it's an email that comes in, and these are huge areas, I have a whole slide on it and I'll go over it in more detail, but email is a huge area for us to receive links. And oftentimes the scammers, they use this technique to be able to get you to, either number one, try to send them money, or two, to have access into your records on your computer, only so they can get into the whole network and try to get into a bank. Okay. And so they'll do this by giving some kind of an email that entices you. You only have 24 hours for this, whatever it is. Maybe it's it's the best deal of the century. And sometimes it's, you've got to update your computer now or we're going to give you a discount now. And that whole now, that sense of urgency makes some people click, and they'll click on a link. And the next thing you know, the hackers have their computer held for ransom, or they've directly accessed in. And now it's just a matter of moments, really. It doesn't take them very long because they're experts to get into all kinds of things that we have saved in our computers. But what they're really looking for is financial information more than anything. And anyway, but if it seems too good to be true, you just won the greatest Xbox, whatever the latest is, probably not. And so it's better not to fall for those. Don't click. Don't, make sure it's reality. And you have to consider, you're protecting, I always teach the kids especially, but you're protecting your future and your family's future from some type of a disaster. And I think we just need to really drive home that point, that imagine what would happen if they get into our records. They get a hold of your mom and dad's account information, or in the case of my mother-in-law, literally she received a piece of mail in the mail, and it appeared that it was coming from Microsoft. It had Microsoft's logos. It had everything that looked like it was real. Next, she got a phone call from Microsoft, and Microsoft said that her computer was giving her indications that it was time to update. And she was convinced that that's what needed to be done. They walked her through over the phone how to VPN, or get in virtually to her machine. Click this and see. I've worked in business for years. She was familiar with a computer, so she has one. She has other items as well at home, so a tablet and such. So she's on the verge of being tech savvy, but just as an end user. So anyway, they're stepping, they're used to working with an elderly population. And when I say they, it's not Microsoft. So they're walking her through. My husband came in for lunch that day only to see the mouse moving around by itself, on her computer screen. And they had access. They were opening up files. He's watching this. He's like, and she's still on the phone with them. And she thinks that they're helping her. And she, so instead we've tried to convince her, because we literally at that point, because they were into actually her QuickBooks, they were into finance, farm records, they were seeing everything, plus account information. So, all of us, we sometimes have stuff on our Excel, in this particular case, QuickBooks, but they could have easily, if she had any passwords anywhere, they could have been online looking at the bank information. So, my husband quickly called the bank to freeze her accounts so that nothing was extracted from her, including another bank where she had her retirement and securities. So, it's frightening, but it was, hey, this is a good deal. You're going to get a break on your Microsoft updates, and all we need to do is get in there for a couple of minutes, and that's it. And she fell for it. And by the way, once they have access, if you don't go back in and change passwords, guess what's going to happen? They still have their VPN connection to go in and 10.10. whatever in the URL, and they're back in. So scary stuff. I also talk about reputation, because and this is really important for the students especially, but really all of us, even as adults. I don't know how many of you guys, maybe you've done this and you didn't mean to, but I've seen even adults bash people on Facebook. And so when it comes to the students, just whatever they post, their pictures, just imagine what's going on in the picture and the reputation that precedes or comes from that. It can be huge. It can be so damaging. Let me back up. So it can be so damaging. So for instance, it can have a job consequence for them. There are scholarship committees that are reviewing websites now. They're using social media as a tool. Employers are doing it. I don't know if any of you vet applicants at all that way, but they're using it as a tool. It's not like the final, but it's a part of the hiring process. I've worked in human resources for Next Tech for about 12 years, and I didn't tell you this at the beginning, but I'm also the executive director for Next Generation Roundup for Youth. It's a nonprofit organization, and I have, I vet our employees through that means. Just I want to see that their character that they're representing for the organization is the right one. It fits our mission, our vision, and I wouldn't want somebody in front of a school district or others who isn't portraying themselves in a professional manner online. And so that reputation can be huge. Another risk is, are you being carefree or careless? That carefree is just the example I mentioned, what people are willing to do to get what they want from you. And literally that hand coming out there, if you could, I don't know if you can see it large enough, but that's a hand taking an elderly woman's money. Um, and I hate to, you know, make it sound bad, but we've even had an instance where a woman was trying to mail over $1,000, and again, she got an email, and in this case, it was one of those, you guys might have seen this scam. This is your grandson. I am overseas on a trip and I need help. And so instead of calling Johnny and asking him if he truly is needing help, it's falling for the email because you know, maybe you're not as tech savvy or you don't realize. And of course, as we age, and my mom now is up in the Amby home with Alzheimer's. You know, when I saw her steady decline at the very beginning, it was hit and miss on memory, and easily she could have fallen for something like this had she been in a situation where she was online a lot. So we can be really carefree and careless in what we do. I'm going to skip over a video, but I want you to think about also, you know, with students, how fast something can be sent. Um, if a boy or a girl is enticing each other to send like inappropriate photos to one another, and you know, that leads us with back to, you know, parenting, and you know, some of the students that are coming into the libraries, I'm sure, are on their own a lot. I see that a lot with the students throughout the school districts when I go around and do these programs. So, you know, being conscientious and making them aware that there are places where it's inappropriate to take pictures, locker rooms, bathrooms, even your bedroom. And so you need to be careful about, you know, where you're taking photos and who's asking for the information. I was at a school district, honestly, I couldn't believe this, but I was doing a program for 3rd grade, and we call it Tic-Tac-Know, Know Your Internet Safety. It's a fun game. One of the teachers, and this was, it's been a few years ago now, she came up to me, and a little girl evidently had sent some nude photos of herself, and she was only a 1st grader. And I was just, I mean, my heart sank. And she said that evidently just that week, the mother had come in to talk to the school about it, that it was discovered, and just, you know, concern for her safety because she had sent them. Now, how that little girl had a connection with a phone or device that actually somebody got a hold of her and encouraged her to do that is beyond me. But and yet it doesn't surprise me, because when I go around to the school districts and I talk to even the kindergarten class, I've been shocked at, you know, kindergartners are so innocent, and here was a 1st grader, so not much different in age. Hands go up, you know, and they want to tell you about these things that are going on in their homes. And I've looked over at teachers before, and they're shaking their heads like, yeah, they know it. They'll mention a mom's boyfriend, or, you know, whatever it is. And I just, you know, it's so scary to me. But I think that's how they're having that access. They're seeing something, they mimic it perhaps, and it's happening at really young ages. So I want to make you guys aware of that. This is not just a teenage or adult college student type of situation. It's happening really across the gamut of different ages. So another one is to, you know, take some responsibility, teach them to be accountable. And one of the things that I strongly encourage is that they just take a moment before they post. You know, it's really easy for somebody to be emotional, especially when the drama is going around, whether you're in high school or college or whatever it is. The picture I have here is the party cups. You know, they're obviously partying up. One guy's got his shirt off. Um, think about what's in the picture. Think about what you're talking about, because every single post is permanent. Some of the kids think, and I'm holding up my phone right now, so some of the kids think that when they delete something off of their phone, it's gone. That's just not true. So if it's been uploaded anywhere, then it's accessible. And once you hit send, it's gone, it's permanent. There's a good chance, and some of the kids are like in awe over that, until I ask them, well, have you ever done a screenshot off your device, like your phone? And I'll use an example, and I'll just do the click to copy the picture. I said, bad guys do that too. So they're taking a picture of anybody. It doesn't even have to just be a bad guy. But if I want something out there, I'll take a picture of it, and maybe I'll save it because I wanted to get back to it later. Maybe it's just a picture of the whole web screen. But the bad guys do that. If they've got a picture they like of a girl or a boy or a man or woman or whatever age group they are wanting to, victimize, or any piece of information, they're putting together a big puzzle. And I always think about like when you're watching crime scene shows and you've got the wall, and the investigators are trying to figure it out. Well, sometimes they'll go to the criminal's dungeon and on the wall are all of these victims, that they're getting ready to, or have already victimized. Same thing here. Everything's permanent. So they're putting together a puzzle. And so it's really important that we think before we post. We think about, are we upset? What's going to happen? That consequence, if I send this, what may happen? Who may see it? Somebody in your community might see it, somebody who's going to have an opportunity maybe to do something positive for you. And I use the example of bankers and others. Someday you're going to want a loan. Maybe it's somebody that you want to do something for in the community, babysit, whatever it is. They may see that and decide, hey, you're not a very credible person. I don't think I don't want you spending time with my kids. I really don't think that you're you don't have a very strong work ethic. Obviously, you're out all night. From these posts, you look like you're out all night. So they're going to make some decisions based on that. Of course, talking to friends you meet online. This is a huge one because the vulnerability of these students. I do a program called this one, I'm trying to think of what it is called. I'm sorry. Team CSI, Cyber Safety Investigators. And this one is very popular. I talk about a girl, and this is based on true story. But it's Jenny Jenkins, who has met all these friends. And she has lots. There's 1,000, I don't know if you can see the screen on the right-hand side, it says she has 1,324 friends. So when I talk about people wanting to follow anybody and everybody, that's the way she was. And she had met up with a friend that was named Josh, and he presented himself as interested in women specifically, which I found really interesting, instead of girls. He had his email, contact information. He even went to the high school that one of her schools would have played in sports. They were nearly the same age, maybe 3 years apart. And everything was good. They started talking to each other, but he started luring her into conversations. So in some of the posts, like the second one on this slide, she was hating her parents. That's rents, hating the rents, grounded again. So she was grounded. He was hoping to take care of all of her problems. That was his post. I talk about how everything is date and time stamped, which in an investigation is great. You'll notice these are in August from 6:10 in the morning, some at 2:12 a.m. Through the 18th. So we're looking for a time period because she is a missing persons case. And Josh texts her, we're looking for clues. He refers to the wall, which would be at this time her Facebook wall, and something that he has posted to her is just between them. Although I will say that her Facebook was completely wide open for public viewing instead of privatized just to her friends or family. And he's now saying that he had this, it's the middle way down this text, it says, she asked, did you see the game? And he says, no, I had a parent emergency. That's a P911 and got grounded. Sorry, you're too cute to get in trouble. So we talk about, hey, she's seen some pictures of this guy. On down, the second to the last in black says LMRL, let's meet in real life after the game. This is him telling her that, where I can't wait. So as we're looking through this whole crime investigation, we're figuring out they've never met before. There were witness statements, even from a best friend, that said she's been texting some guy a lot, but she didn't know who he was. And anyway, lo and behold, he's just luring her into meeting him sometime after a game on a Friday night. And so in our classroom setting, we're trying to figure this out. But unfortunately, she's been missing too long. She's already been missing 3 days, and Josh is caught, and he has kidnapped her. And then I finally say, or has he? And it's really somebody else. And this is a case of catfishing. So somebody, like in this case, it's a bad guy who, by the way, looks just like you and me, family guy, but he has set up a profile pretending to be somebody else so he can lure a teenager into a conversation. No different this way than the hackers who are feeding on the elderly. We have kind of two realms of age groups, and one, like in this case, they're interested in an inappropriate relationship that could lead to sex trafficking. It could lead to death, versus the elderly population who they're feeding on them for money and access, most cases, to financial records. Scary, scary stuff. I like this. I don't know about this new job. HR says I have to attend a fishing class my first day. That's kind of what we're doing. So that's exactly what the bad guys are doing. It's phishing, but it's phishing, phishing. They're fishing for information. For example, it's a caller or emailer that's asking you to send money. They may say he's your grandson, granddaughter, and needs help now, like the example I had earlier. That's a phishing. The emailer that's urging you to update your computer now by clicking on that link below. Remember, I talked about the Microsoft example. Happens all the time. Here was one yesterday. So at Next Tech right now, and maybe some of you are going through this, I don't know, or know of others, but usually the last quarter of the year, around November, it's benefit renewal time for many businesses. So for us at Next Tech, it's benefit renewal. So HR has been posting to us information about, make sure you do open enrollment for benefits and things of that nature. So ironically, there was a phishing scam yesterday that happened at our office, came into, I don't know if every single one of the email, every single employee received the email, but luckily only one only caught it and didn't click on it. But basically it was a benefit renewal. And the one thing that stuck out at the bottom, or actually at the top of the email, because we have it set, so if something's coming from outside the company, there'll be a little caution box that says, caution, this email originated from outside the company. Do not click links or open attachments. We also do our own phishing campaigns within the company. as tests. They're not real, but it's to keep people from clicking links that appear to be like from one about a week, well, maybe 2 weeks ago now. Looked like it was from Venmo, which is an online pay system. And it talked about Venmo and PayPal. So rather than opening it, I always have my Outlook set so I could view something kind of as I look through it without physically opening, which is great. But it was one of those same things. You gotta, there was a sense of urgency, and it said that, you need to, I think it was to confirm the payment. And that was the same thing. It's an emailer urging you to update something, click now. And I'll show you an example of one of them. The caller claiming to be from whatever company, saying they received an urgent message, and it could be, I use the computer example here, but it could be really anyone calling you because they're gonna, they've got your phone information. It's out there. And it can be anything. It could appear that it's coming from FedEx. This is FedEx. You have a shipment, and that can be actually through a call instead of just an email, or at least it originate there, because really what they're trying to do is confirm who you are and get you to either say yes to something, and please don't. If somebody calls me and say, "Hey, is this Jackie?" and I don't know them, if I say yes, they probably are recording that, and that gives them confirmation for something else. They've got my voice recording, and they can say, well, you confirmed it. You said yes, we have the recording. And so it's just really, really careful. You have to be careful about all these things. I talked about the caller enticing you with the deal of the day, and really anyone calling you unsolicited by you and asking for your credit card information. That is huge. Those are, they try to be your friends. Why? Because they're from Publishers Clearinghouse, or something else, and they want your credit card information over the phone. It's like you end the call. That's what we try to get my mother-in-law to do, just hang up. She has a hard time with that. And I understand that. It's that trusting generation. She feels like she's being rude to the caller if she doesn't give them some time. But through that, they're just trying to be as convincing as they possibly can. And she has fallen victim to the credit card theft as a result of that as well. And I know she's not alone. So let's talk about real quick some choices that we can make. For protecting your identity, we really need to be careful about that. Whether we're buying or selling online, making sure we're using sites that are approved. And when I say approved, if they're commonly used, they're probably going to be more secure than those that, if you've never heard of that site, and let's talk about ones that are common now. Amazon, eBay, Etsy, different places like that are pretty common. They're going to have more features in most cases to help protect those sites than any new ones that may pop up. So be careful about that. Protect your identity when answering calls from friendly solicitors. Again, don't give that credit card information out. If somebody's needing something from you, you should call them on a number that you already have for them, not a number that, like, here's a good one. Bank of America card. So if somebody from Bank of America out of the blue called you and they're giving you their name and, oh, you can call me for any concerns, this is our customer service number, and they give you a number and their name is Joe. Okay, if you don't actually use the number on the back of your card for customer care, you don't know if you're actually calling Bank of America or not. It could be a scammer. Does that make sense? So you want to make sure that you're careful about them. Um, I already talked about providing any kind of remote access to your computer. If you are having computer problems, and this would apply to any business, okay, um, that provides a computer solution. So not just Nextech, but since I'm from Nextech, I'll use us as an example. We are not going to call you to say, hey, are you having any computer issues today? Instead, you would call our help desk, 888-565-3200, and let us know that you're having problems. That's much safer because you are calling a known phone number. You're going to get the company that you are soliciting. Same thing online. If I'm going to go out and search for help with computer software, I'm going to go out to a website and look for the business I'm familiar with there. And that way I can get a hold of their customer service helpline or do online chat with them or whatever I want to do, rather than using some unsolicited email or phone call from somebody to access. That's exactly, as I mentioned, what happened to my mother. Giving out any account information, name, address, phone number, credit card number, no PIN numbers, passwords, anything like that. And then responding to, again, mail or email. And if I'm going to mail something, and this is really important, financial records, even under NextGen, if I am sending something to my NextGen board, I make sure that all of that personal information or private information or proprietary information, I encrypt it first. And so you can use an encrypting software to make sure that it's encrypted. For us, Proofpoint Essentials is what Nextech uses. And I think that is something that our business concierge sells or provides to customers as well. It's a great tool. Basically, all we have to do then in our subject line is in the solid brackets, type encrypt, and it goes through that process. And so it's going to be nearly impossible for anyone to hack that. And that way, if it's financial information about the organization, nobody but my board on the other end is going to get that. A lot of the hospitals, medical professionals, insurance agencies, etc., they use some type of an encrypting tool. So really strongly recommend that for those that may need that. Also need to make good choices about thinking before you click. Here is the example of just things to think about. So who's it coming in from? Were you expecting the email? So you can see the little pop out that says expecting it. So were you expecting this email from this security company as this example? This is one that actually came in to one of our employees at Nextech. Notice it says it's to clarksn@ruraltel.net. So some of you may still have a ruraltel.net email address, but all of our employees, we now use next-tech.com. So that was the first, should have been the first hint. Wait a minute, this is not coming in to me, in this case, this Clark was the last name. It was an old email. And so number one, she shouldn't have opened it. We do have the possibility that this was spam, and you see that in the subject line. And it says you have exceeded your email capacity. So this was, it was looking like it was coming from our own internal security, but our security stuff would not come from security at webmail. So that should have been the second thing. So number one, were you expecting the email from somebody? And then that sense of urgency was there. You've exceeded your storage. You have to click on this to add up to 20 gigabits of storage, etc. So one of the things that we strongly recommend, and you see there's a HTTP box pop-up. That is from hovering the mouse over that big click here bar. So what it's doing is it's rather than clicking on it, when you hover your mouse, you'll see what the actual web address is for that link. And as we went through it, it looks like it's coming from it says heliosenergyservices.co.uk. So it's coming from outside the United States, not only just outside the network. So that is a tool you can use. Just hover, don't click, but hover your mouse over any link and just see if it matches, see if you recognize it. And if you don't, and you weren't expecting it, please don't click, because this is where those hackers jump in. Literally, they can hold your whole computer or your network for ransom. And that means that they're going to require you to pay giant fees to unlock. And of course, they still have access to it. So does that mean that they still could get back in and do it again? Absolutely. So does it match? And if it doesn't, or if it does, then you know. Here was another one. This was to get into a payroll system, and it matched. And so it was a good link, and the person knew it was. So just a different example. So were you expecting it? That sense of urgency, those are huge. Just be careful. The other thing is to keep all systems current. So you want to make sure that you take updates on your computer. When the updates, you'll get a pop-up usually that it's time to update. You do have to use some caution on those, just in case if it's something that's unusual. I don't recognize that company name or that brand of software. That's when you get a hold of either somebody at NextTech's help desk, or you have your own maybe IT person that can take a look. Strongly recommend that. So if you have a business or somebody else that's coming into the library and they're concerned about that, direct them to contact somebody at either NextTech at the help desk, or a different IT professional that they know in their community and trust. Because could that be a hack? It could be. Most of the time it's like your Java needs to update, or we need to make sure that your Windows security or whatever it is updated. If those are normal processes, they need to be updated. Why? Because those companies are always doing updates to make sure that they're protecting against the latest attacking devices that people have out there. The firewall, ensure it's active. This is an interesting story, but for me personally, one day, Mike Pollock, who's now the Chief Operating Officer for NextTech in Hayes, before he got that position, he was still in IT, information technology, within our company as a manager. He came into my office in Lenora one day and sat down. He says, "Jackie, is anybody home at home on your computer at home?" And I looked at him and I said, well, I was thinking of what time of day. My husband's probably out checking cows. I'm like, why? And he said, well, someone's using your computer at home to hack into our NextTech network. And I said, my eyes got this big, and I was like, what? And I said, well, can we go out there right now and see what's going on? Well, we got out there and he took me out there. He checked some things. Well, number one, the firewall on my computer at home was not active. It was not turned on for whatever reason. I had just had my computer serviced, and it wasn't by NextTech. We had used a different provider, and even though I worked for them, but that was just a choice because we needed something done really quickly locally, and my husband was already there, so we just did it. That was not the issue, by the way. The issue was that the firewall was just not on. And so what had happened, Mike's like, well, luckily we've got it under control. You know, we've got a team always watching for hacks, and there are tons every day that they have to block. And they had seen it try to enter in, and they were also from out of the country. And what he explained to me at that time was it's people from outside the country. They're trying to find a wormhole, basically, so they can get into a network and get into banking systems. I was at an FBI meeting at one of the before we had Tech Edge, before it became a big event, we had an FBI presenter in Hayes once, and he said basically, you know, the new World War III is really cybercrime, and that's what they're after. They're wanting to shut down the financial system of the U.S. And if they can get in, and of course, not just shut it down, steal money, use it for Al Qaeda, any other systems that are in place to, you know, hack and destroy throughout the world, they're going to try to do it. So anyway, I learned something about firewalls that day. Even though I am not a tech savvy person behind the scenes, I know you've got to have it, and it needs to be up and active. Wireless routers, you know, at a home or business, if you're using a wireless router, in other words, you have Wi-Fi, and I know all the libraries have Wi-Fi. It may be open Wi-Fi at your libraries, which is fine. If you don't have a password, that just means that anybody can get on it. But if it's at a home, it's you should always have a password, and make sure that that password is changed regularly. Why a password? Because it prevents somebody from the outside pulling up and basically getting on the Wi-Fi network that you are now responsible for. So if they're doing anything illegal, it could be tracked and traced back through your own computer or router. They may even have direct access in to your own computer and systems as a result of that. I have this coffee shop picture here on purpose because one of our Next Tech managers was talking about a small community in Kansas. They had been doing business with us. They also had a Wi-Fi router at their place of business, and the gentleman that owned it was literally sitting, I think it was in the evening, he was sitting in his coffee shop and working on books for the shop. So he was directly getting access into his bank account. And about that same time, he was being hacked and didn't know it. And so it literally ruined his business. They over the course of a 2-day period, maybe a 3-day period, they basically unloaded thousands of dollars out of his account, transferred them out, and that also led him to understand that you need to make sure, even in your bank account, when you set up a banking system, that you have limits on how much can be withdrawn. You know, when we talk about debit cards and all that stuff, same